Set QNH 2987.
In this video, I'm going to show you how you can add a command in your BMS library for controlling or setting the QNH altimeter barometric pressure setting via voice. Normally it's set using a rotary knob on a controller, but if you want to input it by voice, it can be a little bit tricky because BMS doesn't support inputting numbers, so you can't type, for example, 2992 or 2991 to be able to set that altimeter value. You have to rotate a knob or send a callback a certain number of times. So a little bit tricky, which is why I wanted to show this in this tutorial, how you might do that in FoxVox. So to start, we're going to go ahead and put the command onto our change. And that way we can say change or set for our QNH value. Let's go ahead and add our new command. We're going to call this QNH. And we want to say change or set QNH. And then we want to set it to a value. And valid values are going to be a range between 2790 to 3120. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and set up a numeric range. Now, one way we could do this is just by doing a number 2790 through 3120. And if I set up a range, one thing FoxVox will do is create a voice recognition for every number between this. It can be really good if you have a small range, but the overhead performance can lag on a large range like this. I mean, we're going from 2700 all the way up to 3100, so there's several hundred commands that are being created if we do that. So we're going to use a number mask by enclosing this in brackets, and this means that we can say any number that we want, but it still has to fall within the range, but FoxVox won't create individual voice commands for every value on that. Okay, you can read more about that in the preliminary manual that's available on the Discord, but this is the most efficient way to set that. Let me hit enter on that, post it, there we go. Okay. So now we've got our QNH. Now we need to configure an output. And the first thing we want to do is we want to set a variable that's going to determine how many times the output needs to be executed. So if we're increasing our altimeter, it's going to be based on what the current value is, or if we're decreasing. So it's based on the value that we want as opposed to the current value. So we're going to go ahead and set a variable. We're going to create a new one for altimeter data. I'm sorry, not data, delta. And we're going to name the variable alt delta for short. And to set the value on that, we want to make it a formula. So we're going to say equals to indicate this is going to be a formula. We're going to use the speech variable sp num int. And basically that is any number that we speak in the speech, any number that's recognized is going to be returned in its integer format. So no decimals, it'll return a whole number. And we want to subtract what our current altimeter reading is. We get that from the plugin on the shared memory. I went ahead and looked that up. The variable is called alt-cal reading. And you can also find that off of the plugin itself if you have BMS running at the same time. So, okay, this is going to tell us the difference between the value that we want minus the current value. So if we're increasing our value from the value that it is currently, it's going to be positive. If we're decreasing the value, this number is going to be negative. And that's going to be important for which command we run. So, okay, so this one anyway is going to run and set up what that altimeter delta is going to be. And let's go ahead and create a new output. And this one we're going to use for the decrementation. So what we want to do here is we want to, let's go ahead and put the commands in. The command that I have bound, this is going to be for just a single incrementation decrement. And this is just by default. Oops, I hit an extra button here. And let's go to our variables. And now what we want to do is we just want to get the absolute value of this so that we can execute that command. So that'll decrement it one time. We're going to have to do it however many times our altimeter delta variable says. So we're going to create this one, and we're going to have a variable called alt delta count. And what this is going to be is the positive value of it. So I'm going to do a formula equals the absolute of our alt delta. Okay, and so this is going to use the mathematical function for absolute value of the alt delta, so it turns it into a positive number. We could also, knowing that this is always going to be a negative number, use -1 times, and that would work as well. Just showing you how you can use functions and formulas inside of these commands. Okay, so we want to run this command in our alt delta count. And then we want to put a condition on this one to only go when alt delta is less than 0. Okay, so when it's less than 0, we're going to execute this, and it should decrement based on the number of, based on the difference between our current setting and our desired setting. Okay, and now we want to do the same thing here. For the increment, it's going to be similar. And we want to, let's go ahead and set up our commands. And this one we want to run when alt delta is greater than 0. And let's go ahead and specify that variable for the run count. Okay, so now we have a command that's set up. I'm going to go ahead and position it up by our heading in our course. We can say change QNH 2992, or some number that we want it to go to, and it should change it to that value based on the outputs that we've set up here. And that's all there is to it.
Set QNH 2987. Set QNH 3002. Set QNH 2971. Set QNH 2992.